G'day folks, Dan here from Agility, and I'm here today to talk to you about our continuing series in the Kanban practices, and today we're going to focus on feedback loops. Feedback loops are a really important part of the Kanban practices. They help support a number of the other aspects. A couple of the feedback loops that I'll be talking about today are replenishment and the daily Kanban meeting, and others like the flow or service delivery review are really important cadences. So we'll talk a little bit about those so that you get a bit of an understanding of how they happen. Now, to start with, we'll look at replenishment. And I'm back here in my brewery again, as you can see, and with replenishment we realise that we have our Kanban here, which is our slot, our ability to do work. And what we've got here is we've got a number of beers on tap, and the idea is, we should be discussing what we're going to replenish our Kanban with. Now, we might want to replenish different things at different points in time. So for example, at the start of the evening, I might want to start with my Hammerhead, a nice juicy IPA, but it's up there at 6.8%. So I probably don't want to be drinking that all night. So maybe later on in the evening, I might start to go on one of my pale ales that are on the board, and I might replenish with something different at a different point in time, just to see how the night progresses. Now, that's really important because as you can see, time is a factor in what we make as our selections, and we'll see that in my previous blog posts on things like just because you have a due date doesn't necessarily mean it's a fixed date class of service. And in that, we explore how the due date links up with our timing of when to start that item. So once we understand our Kanban system, we understand the timings behind it and how that all works. The next one is our Kanban meeting, where we discuss how we're going to collaborate and get the flow done. Now, this doesn't work particularly well in a bar brewery example, because generally everyone's working on their own Kanban. But in knowledge work, it's quite different. We help each other out. We can start to team up on things. We generally don't team up on a glass of beer. So that's the key part of that particular meeting. The other one that we'll go into a little bit more detail is the flow review. So we'll look at how things are moving through the system. Do we have the right things moving through at the right times, the right people involved? Are we managing blockers and dependencies, any sorts of things like that? With aging, all of those sorts of things can come up in our flow review, or as we know it in a more mature environment, the service delivery review. Now let's have another look at the service delivery review, or as some folks call the flow review as well. Now we have our Berwick brew house here, and you can see the different beers that are on tap. I thought this might be a bit useful to be able to see it in a bit more detail. Now what we can see here is we've actually got a nice balance of different items. We've got wheat beer, we've got an IPA and a couple of pale ales, which is really good sort of balance of different types for this time of year. I'd like to get a Pilsner or something in there, but there were some issues with the last Pils that I did, and we can talk about that in the Improve and Evolve practice video. But let's have a little bit more of a look at the whip aging here, because that might tell us we need to do something more. So here we can see in here the age of the different beers that are on tap, and while the Hammerhead and the Stormbreaker are fairly recent, Cypher is something different. Now I know that there's something going on. It's a double batch there, and I'm putting in a second keg at the moment, so that's why that's at 25 days. This is already on its second keg from the batch, and so that's why the age is a little high, but I might need to keep an eye on that because it might be in flow too long and I might need to replace it with something else very shortly. So that's where I need to make sure that I go upstream and make sure that I don't run out of beer to serve. Or service delivery review for knowledge work, you'll take into account a number of other data points such as these lead time charts, or you might look at cumulative flow diagrams, defects or blockers, and the data related to that. There are a number of other types of data points that you can bring into these reviews, and so that you can make your service really fit for purpose. Thanks for watching, folks, and we're going to conclude our series in the last video on improve and evolve.